It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. It's hard to believe, but we're only 3 years away from the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. And if you go to la28.org, they even now have a detailed website that shows you all the venues that are going to be used all across Southern California and for some reason Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, for all the different sporting events throughout the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And some of these are fairly obvious. They're going to be using Staples Center in downtown LA. They're going to be using the Inuit Dome in Inglewood. Crypto.com Arena? Nobody calls it that. They're going to use the arena in Anaheim where the Ducks play, Belmont Shore in Long Beach, a lot of stuff in Long Beach. The LA Convention Center, oh, that doesn't sound like a good idea. Is prostitution an Olympic sport? Because that's what you're going to find on Figueroa. You can actually click on the convention center and see what are they going to do there. Well, at the LA Convention Center, which apparently they'll have rebuilt by 2028, I doubt that, there's going to be Olympic fencing and judo and table tennis and taekwondo and wrestling. Oh boy. Dodger Stadium's going to be having events. You're going to see stuff at the Memorial Coliseum, of course, at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. But the strangest one that's on here is the one that's in my neighborhood. Because there's not a whole lot of San Fernando Valley representation on this list, even though 2 million people live in the San Fernando Valley. There is the Universal Studios parking lot, and what are they doing there? Well, at the Universal Studios parking lot, they're going to have Olympic squash. That seems a little weird. But the one venue that is getting big valley representation is the Sepulveda Basin Recreation Center. The Sepulveda Basin Recreation Area, which includes Balboa Park, Lake Balboa, I'm using my quotes because it's a fake lake with way too many ducks, Woodley Park, the Woodley Lakes Golf Course, that whole area, the Sepulveda Basin Nature Preserve, all of that is going to be home to several Olympic events. And they even have a beautiful artist rendering of what this is going to look like. And it's funny, I know exactly where they're trying to point this because they show Lake Balboa in the design with all of these built-up arenas and stands so you can watch things like 3-on-3 basketball and BMX freestyle and BMX racing, the modern pentathlon, and, of course, Olympic skateboarding. These are all events that are planned for the Sepulveda Basin Recreation Area. Apparently, they're not doing archery here, which was what they did in the 80s for the Olympics when it came to Woodley Park, because they've got that whole archery range there. And the Encino Velodrome, I don't think they're using that. They're using a velodrome in Carson, in city of Carson. But the thing about this Sepulveda Basin Recreation Area plan that I find fascinating is if you look at the picture on the website, la28.org, almost exactly the area that they're showing was on fire today. I live very close to this area. I live in the San Fernando Valley, the West San Fernando Valley, a little part of Van Nuys that they changed the name so property values would go up. It's called Lake Balboa. And they even put in a lake 25 years ago. And that part of town is notorious for being on fire several times a year. Why? Well, why do you think? Because people live in there and they start fires, and it happens constantly. There's a whole lot of video going around of the fire that started today that LAFD luckily stopped at 4 acres, but this area gets torched constantly. You can actually see footage of some shirtless guy walking around with a machete while everything around him is on fire. The homeless start fires constantly everywhere in Los Angeles, and it almost seems comical how often it happens in the Sepulveda Basin recreation area, whether it's at the nature preserve, whether it's at Woodley Park, or it's at Balboa Park. And this fire was so out of control when it first started, it had to shut down the busway. You know, the Orange Line, our public transit option through the San Fernando Valley, that had to get shut down because the area around the busway was on fire. So a couple of things come to mind with this. How exactly is this going to work when we are going to build all these Olympic venues and we're going to have all of this tourism out there in this car-free Olympics where you're supposed to take things like the Orange Line to get to the venues, when the people living in Balboa Park are constantly lighting it on fire? I kid you not, while all the devastation was going on with the fires in the Palisades and Altadena, there was that very same 24-hour period, the night of hell, where everything started torching up. You had the Palisades, you had Pasadena, you had Sylmar. There was even another one that popped up on Woodley and Burbank in the Sepulveda Basin recreation area. I kid you not, about a month ago, I was listening to a Karen Bass and Paul Krikorian press conference talking about how great the Olympic Games are going to be and talking about how the Olympics are coming to the Valley at the Sepulveda Basin recreation area. And at the time, I was turning off the 405 at Burbank Boulevard, about to turn on Woodley. And what do I see to my left? Smoke, because the Sepulveda Basin recreation area was on fire. And it's not like we didn't know that this was going to be a problem. We're now, 10 years? We've known that we were working on the Olympics for quite some time, but we're about 7 years now since the Olympics were announced, since we knew there were going to be a 2028 Olympics all throughout Los Angeles. And dare I say, I don't think we're ready for it. The Olympics that Karen Bass is determining to be the public transit Olympics, the car-free Olympics, how is that going to work when the venue where you're going to be hosting 3x3 basketball and BMX freestyle and BMX racing and pentathlons and skateboarding is all the other venues? There are some challenges there, but a lot of them are indoors and a lot of them, are places that are used to seeing a lot of people, whether it's the Coliseum or the fairgrounds or the Long Beach Convention Center, the beach areas. Of all the places that I see that are listed as places where they want to host the Olympic Games, the one that scares me the most, that is going to cause an international incident, is the Sepulveda Basin in the San Fernando Valley. Because this one, I don't know what they're going to have to do, but if they were going to do something about it, you think they would have done it already. You think whether it's Mayor Karen Bass now or Mayor Eric Garcetti back then, Imelda Padilla of the City Council now, Nuri Martinez back then, if you know this is going to be a venue for the Olympics, what are you doing to clean up this area? Because let me tell you, as a resident of the San Fernando Valley, I don't go to this park anymore, and I haven't for a very long time for some very specific reasons. One, and this is minor, but if you're attracting international crowds, it's going to be an issue, and I don't know what you do about this. But the lake inside Lake Balboa is so overcrowded with ducks because people feed the ducks, and they're not supposed to feed the ducks, that everywhere you walk on the path that goes around the lake, it's duck poo everywhere you go. And the lake smells like you know what. That's your one issue. Then you have the people who go to that park to fish, and I don't know what that's about, and I don't ever want to ask questions. But if that's what you enjoy, good for you. You've got the duck boats, you've got the bicycle things, but that's, again, minor issues. The problem that I have is if you start walking outside of the direct boundaries of where that lake is, because it's a huge area and there are walking trails. It's not like hiking trails because it's a very flat area, but there's a little grade. There's some dirt paths that you would imagine are meant for people to be walking or maybe using a mountain bike on. And I used to, when I first moved to this part of town 7 years ago, I used to take my dogs there. Not the dogs I have now. These are the dogs we used to have. And we would walk around that park. You know, you walk around the lake, it's about 2 miles. And if you want to get a little more in there, you can go some of the outer paths, and I would check out, see what all this park has to offer. And what do you know? I learned very quickly that if you go outside the direct boundaries of the lake inside Lake Balboa, people are living there. And they're not the most friendly kind of people, including one guy that just had a loose pit bull wandering around Balboa Park. And I am the owner of 2 very small dogs. And when I see a loose pit bull, I make a mental note never to bring my dogs to that park again. On top of that, since I have moved to this neighborhood to the point where literally out my window, I am facing the Sepulveda Basin every single day while I do this show, I would say on average, the area that's being talked about for the Olympics has been on fire by homeless people 4 to 6 times a year, every single year that I have lived here, which is now going on 7 years this Memorial Day weekend. That is not a good move if we're going to have the entire world come to see the Olympics. Although, mind you, these are events that might not be too well populated. Well, the skateboarding and the BMX might be. Although it's a strange idea for that as well, because, like, this is a bunch of grassland, so they're just going to have to build all of these stages to do this and build all of these stands. And I just don't see, with the current government that we have in Los Angeles, the political will to do what needs to be done in order to build these stages. Because in order to do what they want to do here, where they're going to have thousands of people attend the 3-on-3 basketball that I didn't know was a sport, BMX freestyle, BMX racing, the pentathlon, and skateboarding, they're going to have to clear out all the people that live in Balboa Park. And they haven't had the political will to do this in 2025, 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, 19, or 18 since the 2028 Olympics were announced. So how exactly am I supposed to believe that in 3 short years, they're going to clear out all those people, make sure they don't come back, make sure they stop lighting fires everywhere? I don't see it happening, and I think it's going to be a disaster. Again, the public transit that we tout is going to be the centerpiece of this Olympics because it's very difficult to get from Long Beach to the San Fernando Valley. Well, it got shut down today. The Orange Line got shut down. By the way, this is right at Victory and Balboa, right across from a high school that's right next to a junior high school. So this fire could easily have spread to a school if the wind was bad enough. Luckily, it wasn't, and the fire department knocked it down. But these fires happen constantly in the same concentrated area every year. As soon as I saw it on my Twitter and I looked at the live video, it was just like, here we go again. And I see the people that we have in charge, and as much as they want to talk about what a great idea this Olympics is going to be, based on the fact that they've chosen the Sepulveda Basin to be a venue and haven't done a damn thing to clear out the homeless that live in the Sepulveda Basin, leads me to believe that the city of Los Angeles is not ready and will not be ready to host the Olympics. I think, unfortunately, this thing is going to be a disaster here. And yes, the Olympics were very successful in the 80s. I wasn't born yet, but I've heard many stories. But there's a world of difference between the government we had then in Los Angeles and the government we have now in Los Angeles. And I think of all the venues that are a massive liability to the success of this, it is going to be wildly embarrassing when we have to shut down the Olympic skateboarding competition because the Homless started another brush fire in the Sepulveda Basin. So here's what I want to hear from you at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. We are now 3 years away from the 2028 Olympics. Most of the people that are in charge now will probably be in charge then. Do you think the city of Los Angeles is actually going to be ready to host the world in 2028, let alone the World Cup next year? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. The Olympics is calling for the Sepulveda Basin to be one of the main venues for the 2028 Olympics. The Sepulveda Basin was on fire today, just like it has been 4 to 6 times a year for the past 7 years, because we don't get rid of the homeless that live in the Sepulveda Basin. Do you think the city of LA will actually be ready to host the Olympics successfully in 3 short years? 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. Get on the line right now. Tell me your thoughts. Do you think the city of LA is going to be ready for this in 3 years, considering what they're choosing to be an Olympic venue? 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. We're 3 short years away from the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, and the Olympics Committee has posted the venues that are going to be used in the 2028 Games. One of them is the Sepulveda Basin Recreation Area in the San Fernando Valley, Balboa Park and Woodley Park. And that area was on fire today because of a homeless encampment. As a resident of a neighborhood that's right around from there, I can tell you there's a homeless fire inside the Sepulveda Basin Recreation Area 4 to 6 times a year, and the city doesn't do anything about it. But if you look at the artist rendering of all the Olympic venues for basketball and freestyle BMX and skateboarding, it's all going to be right there at Balboa Park, right next to the Way Too Many Ducks. With the current government that we have right now, do you think the city of Los Angeles is actually going to be ready to host the world for the Olympics in 3 years? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's start with John in L.A. John, hello.
Hey, Randy, that was a very accurate dower and opening great dialogue. It was truth. There's no way they'll be ready.
It's a mess down there, and I don't see them doing anything to improve that.
The only way they get there in 3 years is by having a confrontation with somebody on the way to building whatever they're going to build, and then on top of it, you talk about the fires and the disasters that will come after it. I'm from Boston originally. This place is beyond bizarre.
I'm born and raised here, and it gets stranger every single year. Thanks so much for the call, John. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Let's go to Arthur in San Pedro. Arthur, hello.
Hi there, Randy. And I tell you, Randy, you're very correct in what you're saying. This corruption in this city is just run rampant. God bless Caruso, but I really don't think he has a clue of what he's trying to put a positive comment on.
I mean, some of these problems, even if you get the right people in there in 2026, they're going to be very difficult to unwind, including the complete negligence of something like the Sepulveda Basin, which they expect a whole bunch of people to go down to. It's a mess out here. Thanks so much for the call, Arthur. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. The Olympics are 3 years away. One of the venues for some events is going to be in the San Fernando Valley at the Sepulveda Basin Recreation Area, an area that had a fire so bad it had to shut down public transit, the Orange Line that's right next to that park. Do you think this is the best idea for an Olympic venue, a massive homeless encampment in the middle of the San Fernando Valley? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. I mean, it would give you that real LA flavor, I'll tell you that. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. We're taking your phone calls right now at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. There was yet another fire today, a brush fire started by a homeless encampment in the Sepulveda Basin. And if I sound like a broken record, it's because there is a brush fire started by the homeless in the Sepulveda Basin about every 3 to 4 months. I know, I live right around from there. This is also an area that has been deemed an Olympic venue in 2028. The Sepulveda Basin Recreation Center. They're going to transform Balboa Park and Lake Balboa, the one with all the duck poop, and they're going to add Olympic BMXing, an Olympic skateboarding, a pentathlon, and 3x3 basketball. But here we are 3 years away from the Olympics, the car-free public transit Olympics, and this area was set on fire by the homeless, and they had to shut down the Orange Line. With the current leadership that we have in the city of Los Angeles, do you think the city of LA is really going to be ready to host the world for the Olympics in 3 short years? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It's also funny how if you look at the images of how this area is supposed to look, it looks very green. If you look at that area, it's very brown, and part of it's very black from all the burn scars. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Bill in Riverside. Bill, hello.
Hey, how you doing? No, they are not. This woman looked about as competent as the mayor, the former mayor of Chicago, Lightfoot, and the present mayor of Chicago, Johnson. They both messed up that city. This woman looks about as competent as those two, and those two people were very incompetent. So, hell no. Can I say hell? I'm sorry. But they will.
You could say hell no.
One of the worst. It's going to be one of the worst Olympics ever. You watch.
I mean, I'm just afraid of the stories that are going to come out of we had to cancel an event because there was a fire. We had to cancel an event because Olympians got mugged. This city is not safe. This city is not well run. And it's evidenced by the fact that most of the events are not happening in the city of Los Angeles for a reason.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I totally agree with you, brother. I totally agree with you. This city, LA, is just messed up, man. It's just messed up.
It is, Bill. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. I live here. I'm born and raised here in the San Fernando Valley. And every day when I'm sitting on my hellish commute to and from the West Side, I just keep humming myself that part at the end of one of the opening tracks to Little Shop of Horrors, that song called Skid Row, where I'm just thinking any way I can get out of here. Some way, somehow, I gotta get out of here. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. The Sepulveda Basin Recreation Area has been chosen as Olympic venue. This is the same area that was on fire today, on fire 5 months ago, and on fire 4 to 6 times a year because they never get rid of the homeless that live in the Sepulveda Basin Recreation Area. Do you think this makes sense as an Olympic venue? Do you think the city of Los Angeles is actually going to be ready to host the Olympics in 3 short years? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Stuart listening in Paradise. Well, it's actually not the town Paradise, but it's Seal Beach, which is pretty much as paradise as you can get. Stuart, hello.
Hey, Randy. Thank you for taking my call. I think maybe you and your neighbors can solve the problem. I mean, they've offered us landlords in L.A., money to take in the homeless. I didn't think it worked well, but maybe homeowners like yourself and other can take in a few methamphetamine addicts and, you got a couple spare rooms and they'll pay you for the 2 weeks that they're there. What do you think?
So should I take the spare room that I do this podcast from right now and put down a cot and invite one of those people living in the basin to live here and sit next to me while I do this show?
Exactly.
Oh, I'm not going to do that, but I think all of our elected officials should.
she'll have company over at the house, and
there you go.
Maybe you can have some Entman's donuts there for them, and maybe a meth pipe, and the city will pay you. So I think you have to look at it positively. We have really bright leaders in this city, and they're going to figure it out, because just like they figured out the Palisades, they're going to figure this out also.
Oh, yeah. The Palisades is not going to be rebuilt by the time the Olympics happens. That's for sure. Thanks so much for the call, Stuart. Appreciate it. He's referencing Karen Bass with this famous rhyme.
Landowners, just take one, just take two, and we'll work with you.
How many Homless is Karen Bass hosting? How many Homless is Imelda Padilla hosting in the San Fernando Valley? And, Imelda Padilla has done a few good things in that area. If you used to drive along Victory Boulevard, you would see so many gigantic makeshift tents and makeshift shelters. But it turns out she didn't get rid of them. They just moved deeper into the park where there's more brush. Again, a fire started in the Sepulveda Basin today that shut down the Orange Line. This is not only an Olympic venue, this is one of the centerpieces of the car-free public transportation Olympics. Are we going to be ready for this? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Irene in Tahunga. Irene, hello.
Yeah. Yes, hi, Randy. Yeah, we need to cancel the Olympics in California. We have a lousy mayor. We have a lousy governor. We don't deserve to have the Olympics here, or the people participating and attending. And also, that's right near the Army Reserve, my brother's Army Reserve. I believe they had to relocate some vehicles, but it's a disaster. Everything we have, they had the chance to fix California with the homeless and all that, and we don't deserve it. We need to go to our community or city, what do they call it? City council, community, it's sort of your local area. We need to go there, and also to the regular city council and maybe the supervisors. We need to get it canceled, and it's not going to work. We don't need it, and that's that.
Well, thanks so much for the call, Irene. Appreciate it. Maybe there's a city that's got they've got their issues figured out a little better, but not only is the transportation going to be a mess and the traffic going to be a mess, but one of the venues that they have proposed, the only venue in the San Fernando Valley, because Universal City doesn't count, is currently the site of tons and tons of homeless encampments. Explain that one to me. Let's go to Bob at Encino. Bob, hello.
Hey, nothing, I like to disagree with Bill. Nothing will be worse than the opening ceremonies in Paris. And I don't think we're going to allow men to be in women's boxing in 2028. But what I'd like to say is I live right in that area that you're talking about, and it's a miserable area. And there's no way this city will be ready for the Olympics.
That park is a shell of what it used to be. It is very dangerous, and you live in the area, so you can confirm with me. That area is on fire 6 times a year.
Oh, constantly. Whenever my wife's office is at the corner of Sepulveda and Ventura, and then she drives back down Burbank most of the time, and she's always telling me about the fires she sees driving home. So,
it's nonsense, and they're not. They haven't done it. They've known that the Olympics is going to be here for 7 years, and they haven't done anything about it.
Yeah, this city is completely ridiculous. I want to thank you and Johnny, because I only believed it was a 5-alarm dumpster fire. You've convinced me it's a 10-alarm. So
I guess we're doing our job then, Bob. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. The LA 2020 Olympics is 3 years away. One of the big venues is in the San Fernando Valley at the Sepulveda Basin Recreation Area. That's where the Orange Line is, and that is where the 3-on-3 basketball, the BMX freestyle, the skateboarding is going to be. It's also an area that was on fire today because of a homeless encampment. encampment and an area that's on fire 6 times a year because of the homeless encampments. Do you think the city of LA is really going to be ready to host the Olympics in 3 short years? 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay on hold. More of your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to the phones on the 2028 Olympics. Let's go to Brett in El Segundo. Brett, hello.
Hey, Randy, they're going to be ready-ish, but here's what's going to happen. A few weeks before the Olympics starts, they're going to send a bulldozer team in there. They're going to clear out all the homeless. They're going to take away all the garbage. They're going to spray paint over all the graffiti. And then 60 seconds after the Olympics are over, it's going to go back to being the way it always was.
Just sweep it all under the rug while the international community's here, and then it goes back to a hellhole?
They did this in San Francisco recently, didn't they? Some VIP, worldwide VIP came in through. They got rid of the homeless. They spray painted over all the problems, and then it went back to being the way it was before.
Oh, yeah, that was that big Asia conference where the president of China came, and Gavin Newsom personally made sure it was clean as a whistle. Well, if we're going to do that, do we have to wait until 2 weeks before the Olympics? Why can't we bulldoze these people out of there now?
Well, because it costs money, and they're just going to come right back like termites.
That's very true, Brett. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. It reminds me, we talked about this. The budget situation's going on in the city of LA right now, and Bob Blumenfeld wanted to know why there's $6 million in the budget under an Olympics project to fix all the broken lights on the 6th Street Bridge. Well, they said because the copper wire thieves stole all the lights, so we need to fix them. And Bob Blumenfeld pointed out, but if we spend the $6 million now, they're just going to steal all the lights before the Olympics comes here. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay on hold. More of your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Before we get back to the phone, 790 KABC welcomes the Psychedelic Furs at the Greek Theater on September 22nd. Tickets on sale Friday at Ticketmaster.com. Right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222. Get spare tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing. Back to the phones. Let's go to Jim in Glendale. Jim, hello.
They're more likely to balance the city, the county, and the state budgets than they are to be ready for those Olympics in 3 years. There's not a chance.
I think you make a very strong case. Thanks so much for the call, Jim. Appreciate it. Let's go to Henry in Montebello. Henry, hello.
Hello. How are you, gentlemen? Hell no. California, everything's tied into corruption. You know it, and I know it. They'll never be ready for the Olympics. It's all a money grabber. What can they take?
That's how it usually works out here. Thanks so much for the call, Henry. Appreciate it. If you'd like to email us, you could do so at randykabc@gmail.com. Lane writes in and says, the Sepulveda Basin also has a wildlife preserve. The noise alone will ruin this. It's not like you can explain to birds that we're going to have a pause in your thriving habitat, so come back when it's over. Of course, we don't seem to care that the homeless light that area on fire constantly, but it's a huge issue. And there are other issues that we don't even have time to discuss here about this specific venue. It's the one that I know about. But it is interesting, if you go to the venues page on la2028.org, la28.org, how many events are actually in the city of LA? Okay, the Expo Park Pool, yes, that one is. Alamitos Beach in Long Beach, that one's not. Anaheim, no. Inglewood, Long Beach, Long Beach, Long Beach, Long Beach, Pomona, Carson, Long Beach, Pasadena, Arcadia, El Monte, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Carson. I'd say about half of the events are in the city of LA and half of them are not. And, of course, there's this one in the Sepulveda Basin in the San Fernando Valley that I am all too familiar with. I drive past this area every single day. And I've seen it on fire several times. It was on fire today. But it's not the only problem. And this might be a little more of a nuanced one. But what is the city of Los Angeles going to do with the other problem in this area? You have the homeless problem that light things on fire in the basin and make it unsafe for people to explore the outer areas of Balboa Park. But there's also, how do I explain this in a way that's fit for air? Have you ever noticed that there's a whole bunch of cars that are just always parked at all hours of the night on Woodley at Burbank? You ever wonder what all that's for? It's a pretty open area. It's not like there's hiking or anything going on there, but there's a whole bunch of cars always parked on Woodley Boulevard right there at Burbank. You want to know what's going on down there? It's the biggest cruising spot in the San Fernando Valley. That's what's going on there. Maybe that'll be good for Olympic tourism. I don't know. Thank you all so much for listening. I'm sure the next time the basin's lit on fire, we'll cover it right here, as we are 3 short years away from the Olympics. If you ever miss an episode of this show, get it at kabc.com/newsblitz. Search for the KBC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. See you tomorrow on the News Blitz with Randy Wang.